There are many stories of men and women who were personally chosen by God to be His earthly representatives in the Bible. In their day, these men and women led the people of God with courage and discernment at various points in time. Even now, their tales serve as a daily reminder to us that God can call anyone, no matter who they are, to lead at any moment. In this video, we're going to look at 8 courageous leaders in the Bible, starting with Gideon. Gideon, the son of Joash, was a doubting man who lacked bravery and self-confidence, much like any other Israelite. But when God called him to defend the Israelites, his story changed. He stood up to the Midianite army, numbered in the hundreds of thousands, with a mere 300-man army. Judges 7:22. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Beth-Shittah in Zererath, and to the border of Abel-Mahalah, unto Tabbath. In his days, he served as a military commander and judge to the people of Israel. His conquest of the Midianites distinguished him as one of the bravest soldiers in the history of the Bible. The next fearless Bible leader also delivered Israel from her enemies, but this time, it was an army of one. Even though women were not considered leaders in her day, Esther was a Jewish girl living in exile who won the king's favor and was made queen. It only took her one courageous deed to save Israel. Esther 6:16. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night and day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. Esther 7:6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Esther 8:18. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, for the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man be reversed. Esther risked her life to seek an audience with the king, and expose the wicked plot of Haman to annihilate the Jew. Esther might have chosen the diplomatic route to save Israel from annihilation, but Samson went in a completely different direction. God appointed Samson to be a judge and a leader in Israel when the Philistines were a regional threat to the Jews. He was endowed with great strength, and even though his downfall was horrible, he was renowned for tearing apart a lion with his bare hands. All of his exploits can be found in the book of Judges, including this story in chapter 15. Judges 15:14-15. And when he came unto Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bonds loosed from off his hands. And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. However, his bane was women, and his relationship with Delilah led to his death. Yet his bravery in defeating the Philistines and his inspiring leadership will always be remembered. Our next leader broke societal norms and expectations. Jephthah was raised by a promiscuous mother and expelled from his family by his siblings, making him one of history's most improbable and unique leaders. However, we also know that God can change even the most unlikely individuals into leaders. His encounter was described in the book of Judges. Judges 11:1, 32 and 34. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a harlot, and Gilead begat Jephthah. Gilead he passed over unto the children of Ammon. So Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. And Jephthah came to Mizpeh under his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances, and she was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter. Interestingly, that was pretty much how his story ended. That isn't the case with our next leader, though. A singer, a judge, a priestess, and a prophetess. She was the only known female judge and prophetess in the annals of the Bible. Being one of the few female warriors in the Bible, she stood out. In her time, the Israelites were under oppression, and once again, God used her to deliver the Israelites. and so she went to battle alongside the army of Israel, as accounted for in Judges 4:9-10. And she said, I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor, for the Lord shall sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. And Deborah arose, and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. Even though her narrative is limited to 2 chapters, Deborah was a prophetess, a warrior, and a strong leader whose tale continues to inspire people today. The leader we would be identifying next was capable of conquering the sea. Moses was one of the most important biblical leaders and prophets of God. He led the people of God bravely, despite the obvious obstacles in his way, a life marked by extreme hardship and sacrifice. One of his remarkable accomplishments as a leader was parting the Red Sea and leading Israel in the wilderness. Genesis 14:21. And Moses stretched his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. He not only brought them out of slavery, but also ensured their safe passage through the Red Sea. He is credited with several other great things during his lifetime, and they are contained in several books in the Bible. The next leader on our list is genuinely courageous. Not only was David a leader, but he was also a shepherd boy who, while caring for his sheep, killed a lion and then a bear, even as a teenager. Despite being the youngest of his 9 brothers, he had the most talked about reign in Bible history. One of his most outstanding accomplishments was killing Goliath. 1 Samuel 17:49-51. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Not only did he defeat Goliath, despite being the youngest of his brothers, he rose to become one of Israel's greatest kings. And in all the wars he fought, there were no records of his defeat. But much more, he was called a man after God's heart. The last person on our list is regarded as one of the most fearless leaders in the Bible. Paul became an apostle after he encountered God on the road to Damascus, and as a result, the whole trajectory of Christianity changed. Paul was a fearless leader who almost single-handedly established Christianity as a religion. In the last century, scholars have come to appreciate Paul as the actual founder of the religious movement that would become Christianity. However, Paul faced so much persecution in his quest to establish the doctrines of the church, one of which was recorded in the book of Acts. Acts 16:22-23. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes, and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Even having faced these and more, Paul never relented in preaching the gospel throughout the nations. Being a leader truly comes with its challenges, but one thing is for sure. If God calls you, He'll never leave you alone. If you read through the stories of these people in more detail, you'll discover that each of them would have had reasons to think they were unqualified to do what God had called them to do, based on what they saw in their own lives. But regardless, God's ways can never be understood by man. Have any leaders in mind that you think should be on the list? Drop them in the comment section, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.